Live from the edge of the Great Red Divide, from that little blue island in the middle of America, it's the Heartland Mamas podcast. I'm your host, Heidi Henry. How are you doing today on day 29 of the reign of Orange Caligula? How are you doing? It's the day after President's Day. Did you go to your state capitol and protest? I did. I went to Springfield, Illinois to make my voice heard with about, I don't know, 200 to 400 of my closest friends. It was a great crowd. Lots of millennial energy, which I just loved. A great walk from the steps of the state capitol all the way over to Lincoln's home. Everything down in Springfield, right in that capital area, is within walking distance. It's wonderful if you ever take a trip there. I love Springfield. I always have. And then we walked around to the governor's mansion. We went here. The Republican Party has gone from Honest Abe to a 34-time convicted felon. I, I'm just stunned. I'm just stunned that their standard bearer is a person of so little character that where George Washington couldn't tell a lie, Orange Caligula cannot live his life without lying constantly. He can't open his mouth without a lie coming out of his mouth and into our ears. He's a horrible person. And I know that the group 5051 is going to have more organized marches. And every time they're going to have one, I want you to pick up and go. Pick up and go. Go to your state capitol. If you can't get to your state capitol, go to your local courthouse, your local county complex, your city hall. Be a one-woman protest. I used to do that. Adam Kinzinger, and I know some of you love him. Don't ever say anything nice about him to me because I know what a horrible member of Congress he was for me. Horrible person. He did one thing good. Look at his voting record. But when he would vote to remove health care from my child that had pre-existing conditions, when he would vote over and over and over again because he didn't care. It didn't matter how many times I called his office and explained how important it was and how I knew people who had died from the lack of health care. Ordinary people that had voted for him. He didn't care. Didn't call you back. Didn't do anything. I mean, he was worthless. I used to tell him he was a waste of skin and oxygen. But when he would make a crappy vote, I would grab my cowbell, make a sign. I used to have a great Jeep Grand Cherokee, and I had poster board markers and all kinds of stuff. And as soon as he would screw up, bam, I was over in front of his office. I was a one-woman protest, and I did it, I don't know, 18, 20 times. You have to be that driven. I was one of the people that held Adam Kinzinger accountable. He was horrible, and he wants to be president one day. Don't fall for it. Look at his voting record when he was a congressman. He was horrible. Anytime he could vote to bomb black or brown people, he was all in on that. Anytime he could take away a woman's rights, he was all in on that. Anytime he could remove your health care, he was all there for that. And then if you disagreed with him, he'd threaten you with the Capitol Police. And we saw what happened to those people on January 6th, and I find it really, really ironic after his staff told me that they were going to send the Capitol Police to my house because I disagreed with them and I wasn't allowed to do that he was the one defending them at the January 6th hearings. It's like, to me, it's mind-blowing, but that's my personal experience. But you need to know the kind of person Adam Kinzinger is. He's horrible. He's horrible. He did one thing right in his entire life, and then his family won't talk to him. So I want to move on here to something called Acre Trader. Now, you and I have talked many, many, many times about the state of agriculture in the United States. Over the last 6 seasons, I can't remember how many ag shows we've done because I live in rural Illinois where there's corn and soybeans everywhere, as far as the eye can see in a lot of places. And I watched in real time in 1980 as bankers would gleefully laugh and just rejoice at taking over farmland for pennies on the dollar when their farms failed. They couldn't make their loans because of what Earl Butz and Richard Nixon and the interest rates did. right? And you'd think farmers would remember that and never vote for a Republican again because that's who screwed you in 1980. But you blamed Carter because he was in office and inherited that mess, and your Republican Congress would not do anything to fix it. And we are right back there again. The Republican dominated Congress is not coming to help the farmers. You know who's coming to help the farmers? JD Vance and his app that you can have on your phone called Acre Trader. You can, foreign investors, investment capital, you can buy and sell American farmland right from your phone and make a huge profit. And while the people in Washington, D.C., the Doge bags and Orange Caligula are setting up with Project 2025 for farmers to fail at such an epic level, it'll be the biggest land grab in these United States since we stole the land from the people who lived here in the first place. Mark my words. Bigger than 1980. Bigger than the farm collapse of the early 1980s. Much bigger. And here's why. They have done some really sneaky, horrible things to the farmers, ending the Inflation Reduction Act, which allowed farmers to put in conservation measures to prevent flooding in their fields. Water's a real weird thing. Moisture's a real weird thing. It's so important in agriculture. Moisture, rain, is everything. You get too much, you're screwed. You get too little, you're screwed. And it's with climate change, we can't plan like we used to. We can't. It's not the same as it used to be. So we're trying to figure this out in real time. So first they cut off those conservation payments for putting in drain tile. Then they went and shut down USAID, and USAID bought billions of dollars of corn and soybeans and wheat from farmers here in the USA, sorghum, honey, all kinds of things, and they fed people across the world and kept them from starvation. And part of the reason we do this as Americans, number one, we are the wealthiest country on this planet, but we do this because places like that can become radicalized over food. Hungry people are easy to radicalize, so we prevent starvation and allow them to survive and have a little dignity. But we cut that off. Now we're going after SNAP. So the payments for the conservation measures are not coming. And I've seen those bills come in anywhere from $35,000 to one was $1.4 million in conservation measures. And that money that was promised and debated in Congress, passed into law, signed by the president to help conservation measures in agriculture is not going to be honored, in fact is dishonored by Donald Trump. Now, in addition to that, the USAID, they're cutting SNAP benefits, and don't forget, in Project 2025, as we've discussed many times before, they've cut out ag subsidies and they've cut out crop insurance. So you're going to see the small farmers go first. And oh, God, it just breaks my heart. I know how hard they work. And I always tell you, the small family farms, you know them because their driveway is empty during the day because they have another full-time job, usually a union job. And the corporate farmers, they have a parking lot full of cars every single day. Just drive, when you drive through the rural areas, just notice, you know. Usually if no cars are in the driveway, we're looking to make sure everybody's safe because, you know, we are a community. I just want you to know that Donald Trump played ag again. Played those farmers. And we can be mad and say, we told you so, F-A-F-O. God, I've said it enough times myself. But here's the thing. They have gotten the farmer so conditioned to survive from subsidy to subsidy. And this started under FDR, really, to help stabilize the market. But then Earl Butz came along and told them only to narrow their crop offerings down to corn and soybeans. So they're in such a narrow market. Now we've added tariffs. Now we have countries refusing to buy from us because they hate Trump. We have a huge effing mess on our hands. And my heart hurts thinking about the people I know that I love that are going to lose everything because of the decisions made in Washington by a person that wouldn't spit on them if they were on fire. A person who sets his ass down on a golden toilet to take a dump. And the farmers think they have something in common with him. It's mind-numbing. The farmers have been lied to. You know, I talked about Adam Kinzinger a little bit ago, and I happen to know firsthand that when Kinzinger was my member of Congress in the 16th Congressional District in Illinois, the old 16th, he never met with the farmers at all. In fact, I was told by his ag assistant, his liaison to the ag community, who is a Republican, and they told me that the only time he mixed with the farmers was when he needed photographs with farm equipment or with farmers in rural America when he was running for office. Otherwise, he said they were a reliable vote. They weren't going to vote the other way, and he didn't care. He didn't need to waste his time. So he spent all of his time out of district to raise money. That's the kind of guy Adam Kinzinger is. Now where I live is in the 14th Congressional District, and we have Congresswoman Lauren Underwood, and she meets quarterly with farmers. She's always got her ear open. She's only a phone call away, and yet the farmers hate her because she's a Democrat, and she busts her ass for them. It's a very difficult time we live in. We have a lot coming up ahead. We have a lot more protests to make. We have a lot of things to feel bad about. A lot of things are very concerning. But you have to remember, no matter how you feel about farmers, 25% of them, 30% of them did not vote for Trump. They did not vote for a Republican. They are progressive farmers, and they are just as big a part as conservation, development, of providing the food from their farm to your table. The farm, your food does not come from the grocery store. It comes from your local farmers. And you may not like how they vote, but you're going to sure miss what they produce. And we've got to figure out a way to help them stay solvent, to stay in the game, and to tell them, you know, look, they pulled the wool over your eyes, but you're a smart person. Pull that wool off and look at the facts. Look at what's in front of you. And how can we help? Because we all need to eat. And trust me, investment capital isn't going to care if you're hungry. They're going to plant only when they think they can make the most money, because by buying this land, they corner the commodities market, they sink us all. Every despot in history has managed their people through starvation and fear. Once the Republicans have control, once investment capital has control of our farmland, it's all over. I mean, it's the worst case scenario. Seriously. I want you to think about that. Think about the process and try to wrap your head around it. It's a huge deal, and it's something I've been involved in for my entire life. You know, even growing up in the suburbs, I was always connected to ag through the animals that we had, that we boarded elsewhere. And I've lived rural all of my adult life. And I just want you to know, I may not agree with how they vote, but I will fight tooth and nail for them to survive, because I know their survival and our survival are very closely linked, and you need to remember that. Anyway, I could drone on and on forever, and I have. So from the edge of the Great Red Divide, from this little blue island in the middle of America, this has been the Heartland Mamas podcast. I'm your host, Heidi Henry. Think spring. Bye-bye now.